You open your eyes in the dark, and the first thing you notice is that the air hurts. Not your skin, the air itself. Every breath scrapes going in and leaves your mouth as a cloud you can feel. Outside, wind is crossing open grassland with nothing to slow it for hundreds of miles. The temperature is somewhere past 30 below, and roughly 20,000 years ago, on a night exactly like this one, a group of humans with your brain and your body is sleeping through it. Not enduring it, sleeping warm. You would not survive until morning. And the reason has almost nothing to do with how tough you are. The story most people carry about the Ice Age is a story about hardness. Grim, weathered figures with thicker skin and stronger blood, bodies beaten into shape by the cold. It is a satisfying story. It is also wrong. Your ancestors did not out-tough the Ice Age. They could not have. Human beings evolved in Africa, and your body is still tropical equipment. You have almost no fur. You carry a thin layer of insulating fat compared to any animal that actually belongs in the Arctic. And your core temperature has to stay inside a narrow window, or you simply stop working. Lose 2 degrees of core temperature, and your fingers stop obeying you. Lose 4, and your thinking blurs. Your speech slurs. Your decisions turn strange. Lose more, and your heart loses its rhythm. That is not the specification of an animal built for a glacial winter. That is an animal a glacial winter should have deleted. So the real question is not how they were harder than you. It is what they had that you do not. Start with what was on their bodies. At a site called Dolní Věstonice, in what is now the Czech Republic, archaeologists found something that had no right to survive 26,000 years. Cloth. Not the cloth itself, which rotted away almost immediately. Its ghost. Soft clay had been pressed against woven fiber and then hardened in fire, and the imprint stayed. The archaeologist Olga Sofer and her colleagues examined those impressions and found weaving, cordage, basketry, netting with regular, deliberate knots. Textiles, made by people you were taught to picture in a shapeless animal skin. Then there is the needle. Across Ice Age Eurasia, at sites like Kostenki on the Don River in Russia, excavators keep finding slivers of bone and ivory ground down to a point and drilled through with an eye. A needle is not a small invention. A needle is a threshold. Without it, you can drape a hide over your shoulders and hold it closed with your hands. With it, you can tailor. Tailoring is the difference between wearing an animal and wearing a system. Closed seams, fitted sleeves, a hood that seals against your face. Separate layers, so the inner one traps still air against your skin while the outer one blocks the wind. That trapped air is the actual insulation. Fur alone will not save you. Fur cut, shaped, and sewn into a sealed envelope will. Nobody knows exactly what a complete Ice Age outfit looked like, and anyone who tells you otherwise is filling in gaps. But the needle tells you the category of thing it was. Somebody spent hours drilling an eye through bone by hand, and nobody does that unless there is thread waiting on the other side of the problem. Then there is where they slept. At Mezhyrich, in Ukraine, people built dwellings out of mammoth-bone. Hundreds of bones in a single structure. Jaws stacked in deliberate interlocking patterns. Long bones set as a frame. Tusks arched over the entrance. On open steppe with almost no timber, bone was the building material available, and they used it with obvious design sense rather than desperation. And inside structures like these. Hearths. Not a campfire you huddle beside. A managed fire in a defined place, often burning bone and fat because trees were scarce, and bone was everywhere. A fire like that gets fed all night, by someone, on purpose. So reconstruct one night. The light goes early, and the temperature falls with it. You are not outside when that happens, because being outside after dark in a glacial winter is not a risk anyone takes casually. You are inside a low dome of bone and hide, and the entrance is angled, sealed, and small enough that you have to bend to pass through it. There is a fire in the middle. It is not roaring. It is being kept at a size someone has judged. using fuel someone gathered in daylight for exactly this moment. You are wearing 2 layers, and both were made by hand from an animal someone else killed. Every seam took time. Every seam has a name attached to it, even if that name is lost. You sleep close to other bodies, because bodies are heat, and heat is worth sharing. At some point in the night, a person you would call family wakes in the dark and adds fuel without being asked. By morning, the air inside is still breathable and still warm. Outside, unchanged, it is 30 below. None of that is toughness. All of it is technology, planning, and other people. Which brings you to the part that is genuinely counterintuitive. They were not tolerating the cold. They were abolishing it, in small pockets, wherever they went. Inside a well-built shelter, with a fire and a crowd, the air could be perfectly comfortable. Those people were not living in the Ice Age the way you imagine it, gritting their teeth against every hour of it. They had built a warm world a few meters wide, and they carried that world with them across the steppe. And that is exactly what you would lack. Drop yourself onto that grassland at nightfall, and you would not be missing courage. You would be missing thread, a hood, a hearth, a shelter, and the people who knew how to make all of it. There is a detail about freezing that makes the point sharper. In deep hypothermia, as the body's controls break down, blood that had been pulled inward rushes back toward the skin, and a person feels a sudden flood of warmth that is not real. It happens often enough that rescuers expect it. People are found having pulled off their own clothing. People are found having crawled into the smallest enclosed space they could reach. At the very end, the body tries on its own to do the 2 things the culture had already solved thousands of years earlier. Get insulated. Get inside. It simply tries at the wrong moment, in the wrong order, with nothing prepared. That is the entire gap between you and them, not biology, preparation, inherited. Look at what you are wearing right now. Somewhere on it there is a seam, and that seam is a direct descendant of a piece of bone with a hole drilled through it. Your coat is a tailored envelope of trapped air. Your house is a hearth with the fire moved into the walls. Your thermostat is the person who woke in the night to feed the flame, automated so completely that you have forgotten anyone ever had to do it. You are not warmer than your ancestors. You are warm in exactly the way they were warm, using the same handful of ideas, refined for 20,000 years, and handed to you at birth without a word of explanation. So it is true. You would not last 1 night in the Ice Age. But be precise about the reason. It is not that you are soft. It is that you were given the finished answer, and never had to learn the question. Tonight, when you open your eyes in the dark, notice that the air does not hurt. That is not the absence of cold. That is 20,000 years of people solving it, 1 seam at a time, so that you would never have to feel it.